The sun had barely begun its descent over the vast kingdom of Njani when a sharp bark echoed through the thick mangroves. Khufu, a loyal hunting dog, had strayed from his owner, sniffing out something strange along the riverbank. When his frantic whimpers reached Nia, a skilled healer, she rushed forward, expecting to find a wounded animal or a fallen traveler. But what she found should not have existed. Lying tangled in a net, her shimmering scales dull and cracked, was a mermaid, a being of legend, gasping for breath on the dry shore. Nia's heart pounded. This was impossible. Mermaids were just stories told by elders, whispered warnings to keep children away from deep waters. But this one was real. Her silver blue tail twitched weakly, and her golden eyes flickered with desperation. Someone had tried to capture her. Someone who knew what they were doing. What happened next would unravel a conspiracy stretching from the depths of the river to the highest halls of the palace, revealing betrayal, greed, and a secret war between land and sea. Sometimes, the greatest dangers are not the ones we can see. This is the story of how one dog's discovery changed the fate of a kingdom, and how an injured mermaid, against all odds, became the key to an ancient mystery that no one was prepared for. Just before we dive deeper into this epic tale, we'd love to know where you're watching from. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow, we've got an extra special story lined up for you, and you definitely won't want to miss it. The golden sun dipped low over the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and crimson. In the heart of Zambalo, the most powerful kingdom in the land, the royal palace stood tall, its grand walls made of smooth, polished stone that glowed in the fading light. At the very top of the palace, seated on a carved ebony throne, was the mighty King Jabari, ruler of the kingdom. Beside him stood his son, Prince Juma, the future king. Juma was a tall and broad-shouldered young man, his deep brown skin glowing under the flickering torchlight. His eyes were sharp and thoughtful, and his thick black hair was braided with golden beads, signifying his royal blood. But despite his strength and power, there was something heavy in his heart. The great hall of the palace was alive with music, laughter, and conversation. Noblemen and women, dressed in rich silks and bright, colorful fabrics, filled the space. Perfumes of frankincense and hibiscus flowers mixed with the scent of roasted meat and spiced honey cakes. Tonight was an important night. A royal decree had been made. Before Prince Juma's 29th birthday, he must choose a bride, or forfeit his right to the throne. The kingdom was buzzing with excitement. On the polished floor, young noblewomen twirled in elaborate dances, their golden jewelry clinking as they moved. Each of them had come to the palace hoping to become Juma's queen. Among them was Lila, the most beautiful of all. She wore a flowing gown of deep blue, her dark skin shimmering with a dusting of gold powder. Her beauty was undeniable, but behind her gentle smile, her mother's ambition burned like a flame. At the far end of the hall, watching everything unfold with sharp, calculating eyes, stood Mama Sefu. She was a woman of great influence, her posture straight as a spear, her long robe embroidered with the symbols of her powerful family. For years, she had plotted and planned to ensure that her daughter, Lila, would become queen. And tonight, she would do whatever it took to remove any obstacle standing in her way. Across the room, seated on his throne, Juma was lost in thought. His heart was not in the celebration. Instead, his thoughts drifted to someone who was not present. A woman who did not belong to the noble families. A woman whose absence ached within him like a missing piece of his soul. Her name was Nia. Miles away from the palace, beyond the bustling city and past the farmlands, stood a small hut at the edge of the great Mbali forest. Inside, a woman was carefully grinding herbs in a clay bowl, her hands moving with practiced ease. Nia was not born into wealth or nobility, but she was known across the land for something far greater, her gift of healing. She had spent years learning the secrets of plants, using them to cure the sick and mend the wounded. People traveled far and wide to seek her help, and she never turned anyone away, whether they were rich or poor. But tonight, her hands trembled slightly as she worked. She had heard the news. Prince Juma was choosing a bride. Her heart pounded. She had written him letters that had never reached him. She had sent messages, but none had returned. Something was wrong. Khufu, she whispered, turning to the large black-furred dog that lay by the fire. I have to go to the palace. I need to see Juma before it's too late. Khufu lifted his head, his golden eyes alert. He barked once, as if in agreement. Nia quickly packed a small satchel with the most important things, a pouch of herbs, a water gourd, and a simple blue shawl. She had no invitation. She had no noble title. But she had love, courage, and a secret she did not yet understand. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the night, unaware that her journey would change the fate of the kingdom forever. The Mwamba River was a sight to behold, its waters so clear they reflected the stars like a polished mirror. The river was ancient, its depths whispering secrets of old magic and forgotten legends. Nia and Khufu moved swiftly along its banks, the soft chirping of crickets filling the air. But then, Khufu suddenly stopped, his ears standing straight up. Nini. Nia whispered in Swahili. What is it? The dog sniffed the air, then let out a low, warning growl. Nia followed his gaze, and her heart nearly stopped. Lying on the shore, tangled in a net of seaweed, was something she had only heard about in legends. A mermaid. Her long, shimmering tail was covered in wounds, her golden brown hair spilling over her shoulders like waves of sunlight. She was breathing, but barely. Nia rushed forward and knelt beside her. By the spirits, she whispered. You're hurt. The mermaid's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises the color of the ocean itself. Who are you? She gasped weakly. My name is Nia, she said softly. I'm a healer. I can help you. The mermaid's lips trembled. They tried to take me. Who did this? Nia asked urgently, pressing her hands to the mermaid's wounds. Hunters, the mermaid rasped. Men who seek to sell my kind for gold. A spark of anger flared in Nia's chest. She had heard rumors of such things, but to see it with her own eyes made her blood boil. Don't worry, she said firmly. I won't let them take you. She reached into her satchel, pulling out a mixture of crushed herbs. Carefully, she pressed them against the mermaid's wounds, whispering a healing chant her grandmother had once taught her. The mermaid let out a shaky breath, her eyes filling with relief. You saved me, she whispered. I only did what was right, Nia replied. The mermaid looked at her for a long moment. Then, with trembling hands, she reached into a small pouch around her neck and pulled out something glowing faintly in the moonlight. A golden pendant, shaped like a single drop of water. This, the mermaid said, is my gift to you. Nia's fingers closed around it, feeling a strange warmth. What does it do? She asked. The mermaid's eyes darkened. It reveals the truth. The pendant glowed softly in Nia's palm, its golden surface warm to the touch, as if alive. She studied its delicate shape, a drop of water, perfectly smooth except for tiny swirling patterns carved into the gold. It felt heavy with meaning, though she did not yet understand why. The mermaid, still weak, leaned against a smooth river rock, her deep blue-green tail resting in the water. Though her wounds were healing, her golden brown eyes remained clouded with pain and worry. This pendant. Nia whispered, looking up at the mermaid. What do you mean it reveals the truth? Zelina, daughter of the mermaid queen, let out a tired sigh. It is a gift from the ocean spirits, she said. When someone lies in its presence, the pendant will glow. When deception surrounds you, it will grow warm. And if a great betrayal is revealed. She hesitated. Nia's brows furrowed. What happens then? Zelina's voice grew soft. The pendant will break, and expose all secrets hidden in the shadows. Nia stared at the pendant in awe. She could feel something powerful within it, something ancient. But why give it to me? She asked. Zelina gave her a small, knowing smile. Because you will need it soon. Nia opened her mouth to ask what she meant, but at that moment, a rustling in the bushes made Kufa snap to attention. His ears stood straight, and he let out a deep, warning growl. Nia whipped around. Who's there? For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a twig snapped. Nia's heart pounded. Then, from the shadows, two figures emerged, their faces partially hidden by dark hoods. Hunters. One of them carried a long spear, its metal tip gleaming in the moonlight. The other clutched a thick net, the same kind that had entangled Zelina. There she is, the taller one muttered. I told you she'd still be here. The shorter one chuckled. And look at that. A little healer and her dog trying to protect a mermaid. He sneered. Foolish girl. Nia's hands tightened into fists. Her heart raced, but she did not back down. You will not take her, she said firmly, placing herself between the hunters and Zelina. The taller hunter laughed. Brave words, girl, he said. But that mermaid is worth a fortune. Step aside, and we might let you go unharmed. Nia's fingers closed around the pendant. It was warm, almost hot. Lies. She narrowed her eyes. I know what men like you do, she said. You don't let people go. You take, and you never stop. The shorter hunter took a step forward, his grip on the net tightening. Enough talk. Kufu snarled, stepping in front of Nia, his teeth bared. His golden eyes blazed in the darkness. For a moment, no one moved. Then, Zelina lifted her arm and whispered something in an ancient language. The river rippled. A deep, thrumming sound echoed through the water, as if the river itself was waking up. The hunters hesitated. What is she doing? The shorter one hissed. The answer came a moment later, when a towering wave rose from the river, curling like a giant hand. The hunter's eyes widened in horror. Run, the taller one shouted. But it was too late. The wave crashed down upon them, sweeping them off their feet. They tumbled into the river, their weapons ripped from their hands, their shouts drowning beneath the roaring water. And then, just as suddenly, the river was calm again. Nia let out a shaky breath. Spirits. She whispered. Zelina gave her a weak smile. The river protects its own. The hunters were gone, carried far downstream. The danger had passed. But as Nia looked down at the glowing pendant, she felt a chill run through her. The real battle was yet to come. And it waited for her at the palace. By the time Nia reached the gates of the palace, the celebration was in full swing. Torches lined the grand courtyard, illuminating the scene of dancers, drummers, and noble guests dressed in their finest silks. The air was thick with the scent of spiced meat, honeyed dates, and hibiscus wine. But Nia had no time to admire the festivities. She moved quickly through the crowd, her heart pounding in her chest. She had to find Juma. But before she could take another step, a voice as smooth as silk and sharp as a dagger stopped her. Well, well, came the voice. What do we have here? Nia turned, and her stomach clenched. Standing before her was Mama Sefu. Her rich purple robes shimmered under the firelight, and her golden earrings gleamed like tiny suns. Her face, though outwardly smiling, was cold and calculating. Did you get lost, little healer? Mama Sefu asked, her voice dripping with mock concern. Nia lifted her chin. I'm here to see Prince Juma. Mama Sefu's smile widened. Oh, my dear, she said. Did no one tell you? Nia's breath caught in her throat. Mama Sefu tilted her head, feigning sadness. Juma has already chosen a bride. Nia's stomach dropped. No, she whispered. That can't be true. Mama Sefu sighed dramatically. Oh, but it is, she said. He has chosen my daughter, Lila. By this time tomorrow, they will be engaged. Nia's fingers tightened around the pendant. It burned. Lies. Her heart pounded. She had to find Juma. She had to stop this. And she had to reveal the truth, before it was too late. Nia's heart hammered in her chest. The words still echoed in her mind. Juma has already chosen a bride. He has chosen my daughter, Lila. But she knew, it was a lie. The pendant burned in her palm, growing warmer by the second, reacting to the deception swirling around Mama Sefu's words. Nia's fingers curled tightly around it. She took a deep breath, locking eyes with Mama Sefu. "You're lying," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. Mama Sefu's carefully composed smile did not waver, but Nia noticed the subtle shift in her expression, the brief flicker of irritation in her dark eyes. "Oh, dear girl," Mama Sefu said smoothly, stepping closer, her golden earrings swaying with the movement. "I know it's difficult to accept, but you are no match for my daughter. Lila was raised to be a queen. You." She gave Nia a slow, pitying look. "You are nothing more than a common healer from the outskirts." Nia's hands clenched into fists. Khufu let out a low growl at her side, sensing the tension in the air. "You can say what you want," Nia said, standing firm, "but I will hear the truth from Juma himself." Mama Sefu's smile disappeared. Her eyes darkened, her voice lowering to a dangerous whisper. "You are foolish to come here," she murmured. "I have spent years ensuring my daughter's place on the throne. I will not allow a simple healer to ruin everything." Before Nia could respond, Mama Sefu snapped her fingers. From the shadows, two palace guards stepped forward, their dark tunics embroidered with the king's sigil. "Escort this girl out of the palace," Mama Sefu commanded coolly. The guards hesitated. "But, my lady, she is a guest." "She is no one," Mama Sefu snapped. "Do as I say." Nia took a step back as the guards closed in. Khufu snarled, stepping protectively in front of her, his fur bristling. "You can try to throw me out," Nia said, her voice steady, "but Juma will hear the truth. And when he does, he will know what kind of woman you truly are." Mama Sefu's jaw tightened, but she did not respond. Instead, she simply turned on her heel and walked away, disappearing into the grand halls of the palace. The guards grabbed Nia's arms. "Come with us," one of them said, his voice regretful. But Nia would not leave. She had come too far. She had faced hunters, magic, and lies. She would not back down now. Taking a deep breath, she did the only thing she could think of. She threw her head back and shouted, "Juma!" Inside the grand palace hall, Juma sat stiffly on his throne, his eyes distant, his hands clenching the carved lion heads on the armrests. Around him, the royal court bustled with celebration. Music swelled through the chamber, noble women in rich fabrics danced in elegant circles, and platters of roasted meats and golden fruits filled the banquet tables. But Juma was not celebrating. Because in a few short moments, he would be forced to announce something he did not want. His father, King Jabari, sat beside him, his sharp gaze scanning the room. "You have made your decision, Juma?" he asked. Juma's stomach tightened. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, a sound pierced through the noise. "Juma!" His head snapped up. The voice was unmistakable. "Nia." He surged to his feet, ignoring the gasps of the noblemen around him. The moment he turned, his heart nearly stopped. Two guards were dragging Nia across the room, her dark braids tumbling over her shoulders, her face flushed with determination. Her eyes met his, full of urgency, pain, and something else. Truth. "Let her go," Juma commanded. The guards hesitated, glancing nervously at Mama Sefu, who had stepped forward, her face carefully composed. "My prince," she said sweetly, This girl was causing a disturbance. She has no place here. Let her go. Juma's voice was like thunder, echoing across the hall. The guards immediately released Nia. She stumbled forward, breathless. Juma, she said. You have to listen to me. You're being deceived. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mama Sefu stiffened. Juma strode forward, reaching for Nia's hands, his eyes filled with concern. What are you talking about? Before she could answer, Lila appeared, stepping beside her mother. She was breathtaking in a flowing scarlet gown, her golden jewelry glittering under the torchlight. She placed a gentle hand on Juma's arm. My prince, she said softly, this girl is confused. The night is meant for joy, not nonsense. But then, the pendant in Nia's hand began to glow. A bright, shimmering golden light. The room fell silent. Lila gasped, stepping back. What is that? Mama Sefu's face paled. Nia lifted the pendant high, her voice clear and strong. This pendant reveals lies. A ripple of whispers swept through the crowd. Juma's gaze locked onto hers. What lies? Nia turned to Mama Sefu. Tell him the truth, she said. Tell him that you blocked my letters, that you bribed the messengers, that you have twisted everything to make sure Juma had no choice but to marry Lila. More gasps. Juma's eyes darkened. Is this true? Mama Sefu's lips pressed together, her fingers curling at her sides. Nia took a deep breath, and closed her fist around the pendant. With a loud, crackling sound, the pendant shattered into a burst of golden light. The air shimmered, and suddenly, the whispers of the past filled the room. Images unfolded before their eyes. Small orange diamond Mama Sefu bribing a palace servant to burn Nia's letters. Small orange diamond Lila crying in her chamber, whispering, I don't love him, mother. I just want to be free. Small orange diamond King Jabari speaking with an advisor, saying, Juma must marry before his birthday. The kingdom must not be left in chaos. Truth. Undeniable. Juma staggered back as the golden light faded. His eyes locked onto his mother's furious expression. And in that moment, he knew everything. His voice was low, dangerous. You deceived me. Mama Sefu's mask cracked. I did what had to be done, she snapped. For the kingdom. Juma's jaw clenched. No, he said. You did it for your own ambition. Silence. And then, King Jabari rose from his throne, his voice booming across the chamber. Enough. The entire hall fell silent. King Jabari's voice boomed across the chamber, his eyes blazing with fury. Enough, he thundered, slamming his royal staff against the marble floor. The sound echoed, sending a shiver through the gathered nobles. Servants froze in place, their trays trembling in their hands. Even the musicians had stopped playing, their drums and flutes falling silent. All eyes turned to the king, waiting for his judgment. Juma stood rigid, his fists clenched, his chest rising and falling with the weight of betrayal. Nia felt the heat of his anger, but she also saw the pain behind his eyes, the pain of a man who had been deceived by someone he had trusted all his life. Mama Sefu stepped forward, her shoulders squared. Despite the power of the pendant's truth, she still held her head high, her voice dripping with the pride of a lioness backed into a corner. My king, she began, her tone careful, calculated. I did what I thought was best for the kingdom. Juma needed a bride, and I ensured he had one worthy of him. Worthy. Juma's voice was sharp as a blade. He turned on her, his dark eyes burning. You took away my choice. You manipulated, you lied. Mama Sefu's lips pressed into a thin line. What choice? She snapped. You were wasting time on a commoner. A healer from the outskirts. I love her. Juma roared, his voice shaking the room. The words hung in the air, heavier than any royal decree. Nia's breath hitched, her heart pounding. The murmurs among the nobles rose, shock rippling through the crowd. King Jabari's gaze snapped to Juma. His deep, lined face remained unreadable. He lifted a hand, and silence fell once more. Then, his piercing gaze turned to Mama Sefiu. "Is it true?" he asked. "Did you bribe messengers? Did you destroy letters? Did you deceive my son?" Mama Sefiu held her ground, but her fingers trembled ever so slightly as she spoke. "I acted in the best interest of this kingdom, my king. A prince must marry nobility, not—" "Answer the question," Jabari interrupted, his voice cold. "Did you do these things?" For the first time, Mama Sefiu hesitated. Then, her jaw tightened. "Yes." Gasps rang through the chamber. Even Lila, who had remained silent throughout the confrontation, sucked in a sharp breath, her face paling. King Jabari's expression darkened. He turned to his guards. "Take her away." Two armored men immediately stepped forward, gripping Mama Sefiu's arms. She did not struggle, but she lifted her chin defiantly. "You would exile me for ensuring a future for this kingdom," she spat. "You would humiliate me before these people." King Jabari's expression remained unforgiving. "You humiliated yourself," he said. "You betrayed my trust, my son's trust. You do not deserve to remain in this court." At those words, something in Mama Sefiu's eyes shifted. For the first time, true fear flickered across her face. "Lila," she whispered, turning to her daughter. "Tell them. Tell them I did this for you." But Lila stepped away, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "No, mother," she said, her voice shaking. "You did this for yourself." Mama Sefiu froze. For the first time, she had truly lost. The guards began leading her away. As she passed Nia, her eyes flashed with resentment. "You think you have won, girl," she hissed. "The throne will never accept you." But Nia met her gaze without fear, gripping the pendant's broken chain in her hand. "Even broken things can still hold light," she said softly. Mama Sefiu's face twisted in anger, but she said nothing more as she was dragged from the hall. As the doors closed behind Mama Sefiu, silence stretched over the room once more. Then, Juma turned to Nia. His eyes softened, the weight of everything crashing over him. "Nia," he said, his voice raw, filled with unspoken emotions. "I—" But before he could finish, Nia fell to her knees, exhaustion hitting her all at once. Juma rushed forward, catching her in his arms before she could hit the marble floor. "Nia." His voice was laced with concern. "I'm fine," she whispered, her voice weak. "The pendant, it took everything I had to break it." She felt Juma's arms tighten around her, holding her close. "You should rest," he murmured. "You've done enough." But Nia shook her head, forcing herself to sit up. "No," she said, meeting his gaze. "There is still more to do." King Jabari stepped forward, looking down at her with an unreadable expression. "You have exposed the truth," he said. "You have risked much for my son. Tell me, what would you ask for in return?" Nia hesitated. She had not done this for a reward. She had done it for Juma. For love. But then, she remembered the village's suffering under sickness, the people who needed a healer's touch. And so, she lifted her chin. "Your Majesty," she said, "all I ask is to continue my work as a healer. To be allowed to help those who need it most, without restrictions." King Jabari studied her for a long moment. Then, he smiled. "A true queen does not seek power," he said. "A true queen seeks to serve." Juma grinned, warmth flooding his heart. And in that moment, he knew. His heart had chosen well. The grand hall was still buzzing with whispers long after Mama Sefu was taken away. The nobles exchanged glances, their expressions ranging from curiosity to disapproval. A common healer, standing before the king. A prince declaring his love for a woman with no royal blood. This was unheard of. Juma knew this. He felt the weight of their gazes, the unspoken challenge in their eyes. He turned to his father, his voice firm. "Nia is the woman I choose." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some of the elders furrowed their brows, shaking their heads. King Jabari leaned back on his throne, his fingers drumming against the lion head carvings. His face remained unreadable. "A prince's marriage is not just about love, Juma," the king finally said, his deep voice measured. "It is about the kingdom's stability. The council must approve." Juma's jaw tightened. "Then let them approve it." The nobles shifted uncomfortably. One of the elder ministers, Chief Mosi, stepped forward. His long robes of deep blue flowed around him, and his golden rings clinked as he crossed his arms. "My prince," he said, bowing slightly. "We do not doubt that Nia is a brave and honorable woman. But she is not of noble birth. The traditions of our kingdom." "Tradition?" Juma cut in, his voice sharp. "Since when did tradition matter more than truth? Since when did we let lies determine our future?" Murmurs rose again. Nia stood quietly, feeling the weight of every word, every stare. She knew this would not be easy. But before she could speak, another voice rang out. "She saved me." All eyes turned to Lila. She stepped forward, her scarlet gown flowing behind her, her face calm but resolute. She met Nia's gaze before turning to her father, the king. "Nia could have destroyed me tonight," she said, her voice steady. "She could have taken revenge for all that my mother did. But she didn't." King Jabari studied his daughter carefully. Lila turned to the nobles. "A true queen is not just born into royalty," she said. "She is made. And if there is anyone who has shown the heart of a queen, it is Nia." For the first time, the nobles looked uncertain. Chief Mosi sighed, rubbing his beard. "Perhaps," he admitted, "but the council must still decide." King Jabari nodded, turning back to Nia. "Until then," he said, "you will remain under royal protection." Juma exhaled, relief washing over him. It wasn't a full victory, but it was a start. Nia bowed. "Thank you, my king." The night was cool as Nia walked through the palace gardens, her fingers tracing the broken pendant in her palm. The moon cast silver light over the flowers, and the scent of blooming jasmine filled the air. Juma found her there, standing beneath a twisted baobab tree. "You should be resting," he said softly. She turned to him, her dark eyes full of emotions. "I can't," she admitted. "Everything has changed. And now, I don't know what happens next." Juma stepped closer, taking her hands. "We fight," he said simply. "Together." A gentle breeze rustled through the leaves. "I'm not afraid of fighting," Nia whispered. "But I am afraid of being a queen. I don't belong in this world, Juma." "You belong with me," he said, his voice warm. "And if the council refuses you, then I refuse them." Nia's breath caught. "You would give up the throne? If it meant choosing between you and a crown?" Juma's gaze burned into hers. "Then yes. I would choose you. 100 times over." The words wrapped around her heart like fire and silk. But before she could answer, a sharp bark broke the moment. Khufu. The dog stood rigid, ears pinned back, eyes fixed on something beyond the garden walls. A low, warning growl rumbled in his throat. Nia and Juma turned sharply. And then, they heard it. Footsteps. Someone was watching them. Someone who didn't want them to see. Khufu's growls deepened, his muscular body lowering as he prepared to pounce. Juma's hand instinctively moved to the dagger strapped to his belt. His eyes darted toward the shadows beyond the garden wall, his heartbeat steady but alert. Nia took a step closer to Khufu, her fingers brushing against his fur. "Who's there?" Juma demanded, his voice carrying through the night. Silence. But then, a soft rustling. A breath of movement. Juma's grip on the dagger tightened, but before he could act, a dark figure burst from the bushes. Khufu lunged immediately, snapping his jaws. The figure dodged, swift as a gazelle, leaping over the low stone wall of the garden and vanishing into the night. Juma ran forward, reaching the wall, but the intruder was already gone. He cursed under his breath. Nia's breath came in shaky exhales. "Who was that?" she whispered. Juma turned back to her, his expression tense. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I don't like it." Nia bent down, running her fingers through the dirt where the figure had stood. The soil was damp from the evening dew, but something caught her attention. A small, golden emblem. She lifted it, her fingers brushing away the dust. Her stomach dropped. She knew this emblem. It belonged to the Council of Elders. The following morning, the palace was alive with tension. Servants whispered in the halls, ministers held hurried meetings, and guards patrolled more frequently than usual. Juma had not slept. He had spent the rest of the night speaking with his personal guards, trying to determine how an intruder from the council had been able to spy on them. But there were no answers, only more questions. Nia sat quietly in the prince's chambers, examining the emblem over and over again. Juma stood near the window, his hands behind his back, his shoulders rigid with frustration. "This was a message," he finally said. "A warning." Nia's fingers curled around the emblem. "They won't accept me," she murmured. "They want to scare me away before the council meeting." Juma turned, his expression dark. "Then they don't know who they're dealing with." Before Nia could respond, a knock sounded at the door. One of the royal guards stepped inside, bowing his head. "Prince Juma, the Council of Elders has summoned you and Nia." Nia and Juma exchanged a look. It was time. The council chamber was an ancient room, its walls carved with the stories of kings long past. A massive circular table dominated the space, where the 7 elders of the kingdom sat in their grand robes, their faces lined with wisdom and skepticism. Juma and Nia stood before them, side by side. Chief Mosi, the eldest of the council, tapped his staff against the floor. His sharp, intelligent eyes moved over Nia as if assessing her worth. "Prince Juma," he began, his voice like the slow creaking of an old tree. "You have called for an unprecedented request. To marry a woman of no noble birth. A healer. A commoner." Juma's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The second elder, a wiry man named Baraka, sighed. "What you ask is dangerous. If we break tradition now, what stops others from doing the same?" Nia felt the weight of their judgment, but she refused to lower her gaze. She stepped forward. "With all due respect, my lords," she said, her voice steady, "shouldn't a queen be chosen for her heart, not her birth?" Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Chief Mosi's brow furrowed. "And tell me, girl, what makes you worthy of a crown?" Nia lifted her chin. "I have healed your people," she said. "When the sickness spread through the villages, I was there, mixing medicine, tending to the weak. When the drought came, I was there, helping the farmers find new ways to grow crops. Even when Lady Sephu sought to destroy me, I never turned away from doing what was right." Silence. Juma looked at her with pride shining in his eyes. Elder Baraka sighed again, rubbing his temple. "This kingdom does not just need a healer, Prince Juma. It needs a queen who can handle politics, alliances, war." "She saved a mermaid," Juma cut in suddenly. The room froze. Nia felt every pair of eyes snap to her. Chief Mosi's fingers tightened on his staff. "A mermaid," he repeated slowly. Juma nodded. "She saved an injured mermaid from death. And the mermaid queen herself gifted her a pendant of truth." The council exchanged unreadable glances. Elder Baraka leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Do you still have it?" Nia hesitated. She lifted the broken remains of the pendant from her pocket. "It shattered," she admitted. Mosi studied it for a long moment. Then, he leaned back. "Few have ever encountered the merfolk and lived to tell the tale," he said. "To be honored by them is no small thing." The tension in the room shifted. Juma sensed it immediately. They were reconsidering. Chief Mosi exhaled, his fingers tapping against the table. "We must vote." One by one, the elders spoke their verdicts. Elder Baraka, no. Elder Sephu, a cousin of the disgraced Mama Sephu, no. Elder Kwame, yes. Elder Amani, yes. Elder Fatima, yes. Elder Jengo, yes. The final vote lay with Chief Mosi. He studied Juma. Then, he looked at Nia. Finally, after a long, painful silence, he nodded. Yes. The air crackled with tension. Juma felt a rush of relief, but Mosi's next words cooled his excitement. "You have one moon cycle," the old man said. "Prove to the people that she is worthy. If, in 30 days, the kingdom does not accept her, then this union will be dissolved." Juma's hands curled into fists. A test. A final trial before they could be together. Nia took a deep breath. "Then we will prove it," she said. Juma turned to her, pride filling his chest. "Yes," he agreed. "We will." But deep in the shadows of the chamber, someone watched. Someone who did not want them to succeed. The throne room was still buzzing with murmurs after the council's final decision. A moon cycle, 30 days. That was all Nia had to prove that she was worthy to stand beside Juma as his queen. Juma clenched his fists. He could feel the weight of the test pressing on his shoulders. Nia, standing at his side, kept her face calm, but inside, her mind raced. How would she prove herself? What would the people expect of a queen? Chief Mosi rose from his seat. "Nia," he said, his voice firm but not unkind. "The people must see that you can lead. Your first task is to walk among them. You will visit the villages, listen to their struggles, and offer solutions. If you can win their trust, you may yet prove yourself." Juma exhaled sharply. "She has already done that," he said. "She has always helped the people." Mosi gave him a long look. "Then this will be easy for her, won't it?" The words felt like a trap, but Juma did not argue. Instead, he turned to Nia, his voice low. "We will do this together," he promised. Nia squeezed his hand. "Yes," she whispered. "Together." That evening, as the sun dipped behind the palace walls, Nia prepared for the journey ahead. She sat in her chambers, brushing her thick, dark hair, while Lila stood by the window. "You're brave," Lila murmured, gazing at the golden sky. "Braver than I ever was." Nia glanced at her. "I don't feel brave." Lila smiled, a sad sort of smile. "That's how you know you are." There was a pause before Lila turned, her expression more serious. "Be careful, Nia. Not everyone wants to see you succeed." Nia sighed. "I know." Lila stepped closer. "You don't understand. My mother may be gone, but her allies are not." Nia stilled. Lila's voice dropped to a whisper. "Someone is watching you. Waiting for you to fail. And if you don't fail..." She hesitated. "They will make sure you do." A chill crept down Nia's spine. The next morning, Nia, Juma, and a small group of royal guards, including Khufu, her loyal dog, rode out of the palace gates. For the first time, Nia saw the kingdom from a new perspective. The golden fields of maize, the narrow streets of the villages, the bustling marketplaces where merchants called out their wares. But as they passed, she felt something else, a quiet hesitation in the people's eyes. They stared at her. Some whispered behind their hands. Others turned away. Juma noticed it too. He leaned close. "They don't trust you yet," he murmured. Nia's heart clenched. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but seeing the doubt on their faces was harder than she expected. They arrived at the first village, Njani, where a long line of people had gathered outside a dry well. An elder approached, bowing to Juma. "My prince," he said, "our well has dried up, and the river is too far for the elderly and the children to reach. We have been praying for a solution." Juma turned to Nia. She stepped forward, taking a deep breath. "Let me see." She knelt beside the well, scooping up a handful of the dusty earth. She crumbled it between her fingers. It was too dry, as if something had drained the water beneath. Her healer's instinct stirred. She turned to the elder. "When did this begin?" "2 moons ago," he answered. "Strangely, it was after a man from another kingdom passed through our village. He was dressed in fine robes, but his heart seemed full of shadows." A murmur spread through the gathered villagers. Juma's expression hardened. "A foreigner?" The elder nodded. "He spoke of buying land, but when we refused, our well began to dry soon after." Nia frowned. It may not be a coincidence. She closed her eyes, pressing her hand to the ground. Listening. Feeling. There, beneath the earth, something wasn't right. The water had not just dried. It had been blocked. Her eyes flew open. "Someone has done this on purpose." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Can you fix it?" a young girl asked, her big brown eyes full of hope. Nia thought of the lessons the Mermaid Queen had taught her, the way water moved, the way the earth breathed. She stood, brushing the dust from her hands. "Yes," she said. "But I will need help." The villagers stepped forward without hesitation. Together, they began digging around the well, uncovering the hidden stones that blocked the underground stream. Nia guided them, using her knowledge of the earth to direct their efforts. After hours of work, the first trickle of water appeared. Then, a rush. Cool, clear water bubbled up, filling the well once more. The village erupted in cheers. The elder grasped Nia's hands, tears in his eyes. "You have given us life again." For the first time, Nia saw something new in the people's faces. Not doubt. Hope. As they rode into the next town, Khufu suddenly stiffened. His ears pinned back, his fur standing on end. Nia frowned, placing a hand on his back. "What is it, boy?" Khufu let out a low growl. Juma's eyes narrowed. "Something is wrong." The market seemed normal, traders selling yams, woven baskets, dried fish. But there was an unnatural stillness. And then, a flash of movement. A figure in dark robes slipped between the stalls, vanishing around the corner. Nia and Juma exchanged a look. And without a word, they followed. The air was thick with the smell of roasted maize and fresh spices as Juma and Nia moved quickly through the narrow alleys of the market. Khufu led the way, his nose to the ground, growling softly as he tracked the scent of the hooded figure. Nia's heartbeat quickened. She didn't know who the stranger was, but she could feel it. This person was not just a simple thief or merchant. They had been watching her. Juma pulled his dagger free, his eyes scanning the crowd. "Stay close," he murmured. Nia nodded. Suddenly, Khufu let out a sharp bark and dashed forward. The shadowy figure turned a corner, disappearing behind a row of stalls selling dyed fabrics. Juma and Nia broke into a run, dodging merchants and startled customers. They turned the corner and found nothing. The alley was empty. Only the distant sound of a door creaking shut. Juma clenched his jaw. They're hiding. Nia pressed her hand against the wall, breathing deeply. She closed her eyes, trying to focus. There. A trace of warmth, a presence that had just moved past. She pointed. That door. Juma didn't hesitate. He pushed forward, kicking the door wide open. Inside, the room was dark, filled with the scent of old parchment and burning incense. A lone figure sat at a wooden table, hood still drawn, their hands resting on an ancient, leather-bound book. Slowly, the figure lifted their head. Nia gasped. It was a woman, old, with deep lines on her face, her eyes filled with knowledge and warning. She smiled, as if she had been expecting them. "Welcome," she murmured. "I was wondering how long it would take you to find me." Juma tightened his grip on his dagger. "Who are you?" The old woman chuckled softly. "You are standing in my home, yet you demand my name." She shook her head. "The young have no manners these days." Nia studied her carefully. There was something strange about her, something powerful. She stepped forward. "You were watching me." The woman nodded. "Of course I was." Nia frowned. "Why?" The woman tapped the book in front of her. "Because I have been waiting for you." Juma and Nia exchanged a look. "Waiting for me?" Nia repeated. "Why?" The woman's smile faded. "Because trouble follows you, child. And those who seek to stop you are closer than you think." A chill ran down Nia's spine. "Who are they?" Juma demanded. The woman let out a slow breath. "There are many who do not wish to see a healer sit on the throne. Some believe you will weaken the kingdom. Others have personal reasons to want you gone." Nia swallowed. "Mama Sefu's allies." The woman nodded. "And one more." Juma tensed. "Who?" The woman's eyes darkened. "The foreigner who cursed the well in Johnny. He has returned." Nia felt her blood go cold. Juma took a step closer. "Who is he?" The woman closed the book, dust rising from its ancient pages. "His name is Kamari," she said. "And he is far more dangerous than you know." Nia sat in silence, absorbing the old woman's words. Juma paced beside her, frustration etched across his face. "Why would this Kamari attack our people?" The woman met his gaze. "Because he was cast out of his own kingdom. He came seeking wealth and land, but when your father refused him, he swore vengeance." Nia clenched her fists. "And now he's trying to turn the people against me." The woman nodded. "And it is working." Juma let out a low curse. "We need to find him. Stop him before he does more damage." The old woman smiled. "Ah, but you do not yet understand." She leaned forward. "Kamari is not working alone." Nia's breath caught. "Who is helping him?" The woman's expression turned grave. "Someone from within the palace." Juma and Nia returned to the palace under the cover of night, their minds racing. Someone inside the palace was working with Kamari. Someone who wanted to see Nia fail. But who? Juma summoned his most trusted guards, ordering them to quietly investigate. Meanwhile, Nia sat by her window, staring at the moonlit courtyard below. Khufu lay beside her, his ears twitching. "Someone wants me gone," she murmured, running a hand through his fur. "But I won't let them win." Khufu huffed, pressing his nose against her palm. A soft knock at her door made her sit up. "Come in." The door opened. And Lila stepped inside. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. "Nia," she whispered. I need to tell you something. Nia's heart pounded. What is it? Lila hesitated, looking down at her hands. Then, she took a deep breath and met Nia's gaze. I think I know who the traitor is. Nia stared at Lila, her heart pounding. You know who the traitor is? She asked. Lila bit her lip, her fingers twisting the edge of her robe. I don't know for sure. But I have a strong feeling. Juma, who had been standing near the window, stepped forward. Tell us everything. Lila took a shaky breath. After my mother was exiled, many of her followers were forced to leave the palace. But some remained, quiet, waiting. One of them was my mother's closest advisor. Nia's throat tightened. Who? Lila hesitated, then whispered, Elder Jandari. Juma's jaw clenched. Jandari? He has served the palace for years. Lila nodded. Yes. But he was also my mother's greatest supporter. And when she was banished, he lost his power. Nia's thoughts raced. So you think he's helping Kamari? Lila looked down. I think he wants revenge. Juma exchanged a look with Nia. They had to be sure before making any accusations. Lila, Nia said softly, if you're wrong. Lila met her gaze, her voice firm. I'm not wrong. That night, Juma and Nia made a plan. They would set a trap. If Jandari was truly working with Kamari, they had to catch him in the act. Juma called for his most trusted guards. We will watch him, he instructed. If he is the traitor, we will know soon enough. Meanwhile, Nia decided to do something bold. She would visit Jandari herself. Jandari's chambers were in the older part of the palace, away from the main halls. Nia took a deep breath, then knocked on his door. A few seconds later, the old man opened it. His gray eyes widened when he saw her. Lady Nia, he said, voice smooth. This is unexpected. Nia smiled politely. I needed to speak with you. Jandari stepped aside, allowing her in. The room was neat, filled with scrolls, maps, and a small table where a single candle burned low. How can I help you, my lady? He asked, pouring a cup of tea. Nia sat, studying his face carefully. She decided to test him. I have been thinking a lot about Queen Sephu, she said. And the way she was treated. Jandari's hand stilled for half a second before he continued pouring the tea. Have you? He asked lightly. Nia nodded. I wonder, what if she had been right? What if she deserved more? Jandari's lips curved into the smallest smile. Then, just for a moment, his guard slipped. Not everyone saw her greatness, he murmured. Even now, they fail to understand her vision. Nia's heartbeat quickened. So it was true. Jandari was still loyal to Mama Sephu. She had to be careful. She sipped her tea. It must be hard for you, knowing how things turned out. Jandari sighed, his fingers tapping the table. Hard? No, my lady. Disappointing, perhaps. But not hard. Then, his gaze lifted to meet hers. But tell me, Lady Nia. Why does the future queen care about the past? Nia kept her expression calm. Because the past shapes the future. Jandari leaned back. Indeed it does. His smile did not reach his eyes. Nia knew then, he was dangerous. When Nia returned to her chambers, Juma was waiting for her. Did he suspect anything? Juma asked. Nia nodded. He's too smart to say anything directly. But I know it's him, Juma. He still believes in Mama Sephu's rule. Juma cursed under his breath. That means he's likely working with Kamari. Nia's mind raced. We need proof. Just then, a guard rushed in, breathless. "My prince," he gasped. "We found something." Juma and Nia followed him through the palace corridors until they reached a small hidden room near the outer walls. Inside, there was a table covered in maps. Nia's eyes widened. The maps were of the kingdom. Certain areas were marked with red ink. Juma leaned closer. "These are supply routes, water sources, farmland." His expression darkened. "They've been planning something." Nia's stomach tightened. An attack. Then, her eyes caught something else. A letter, half buried under the maps. She picked it up and read the words aloud. "The time has come. We move at the next moon. The people will rise, and the throne will fall." It was signed, Kamari. Juma gritted his teeth. "We don't have much time." The next morning, Nia and Juma summoned the king. The old ruler listened carefully as they explained everything: Jandari's loyalty to Mama Sefu, his secret meeting with Kamari, and the evidence of an attack. The king's face darkened. "If this is true, we must act quickly." Juma nodded. "We need to capture Jandari before he can warn Kamari." The king stood. "Do what must be done." Jandari was clever. When the guards arrived at his chambers, he was already gone. The room was empty, the candle still burning low. Juma cursed. "He knows we found him." A guard rushed in. "My prince." A horse was taken from the stables. "He's fleeing the city." Juma grabbed his sword. "We ride after him." Nia placed a hand on Juma's arm. "Be careful. He's dangerous." Juma nodded once, then turned to the guards. "Let's go." Outside the city walls, a lone rider raced through the tall grass. Jandari's heart pounded as he urged his horse faster. He had to reach Kamari. Warn him. But just as he neared the dense forest, a shadow moved. Before Jandari could react, an arrow whistled through the air. Thunk. Jandari gasped, clutching his side as he tumbled from the horse. He hit the ground hard, groaning in pain. From the darkness, a figure stepped forward. The last thing Jandari saw was Kamari's cold, merciless eyes staring down at him. "You were careless," Kamari murmured. Then, he raised his blade. And the forest fell silent. The night air was heavy with tension. Nia stood at the highest balcony of the palace, her gaze fixed on the horizon. The moon was high, bathing the land in silver light, but it brought no comfort. Somewhere out there, Kamari was waiting. Juma stepped beside her, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. "Jandari is dead." Nia closed her eyes for a moment. Though she had never trusted Jandari, she had not wished death upon him. But now, Kamari had silenced him. "We don't have much time," Juma continued. "The message we found. Kamari plans to attack by the next moon." Nia turned to face him. "That's in 2 nights." Juma nodded grimly. "We must be ready." The next morning, Juma and Nia stood before the king. He sat on his throne, his face lined with deep worry. "Jandari's betrayal has cost us dearly," the king said. "But we cannot allow this Kamari to take what is ours." Juma stepped forward. "Father, we must prepare the warriors. If Kamari's forces attack the city, we need to be ready." The king nodded. "Send word to the generals. Every able warrior must stand guard at the city walls." Nia hesitated before speaking. "Your Majesty, I believe we need more than warriors. We need the people." The king frowned. "The people." Nia took a breath. "Kamari does not only plan to attack with soldiers. He has been poisoning the minds of the people. If they turn against us, we will be fighting our own kingdom." The king sighed, rubbing his temples. So what do you suggest? Nia lifted her chin. Let me go to them. Juma turned sharply. What? No. It's too dangerous. But Nia stood firm. Juma, I am the next queen. If I am to lead, then I must fight for my people. Let me speak to them. Let me show them the truth before it is too late. The king studied her for a long moment. Then, he nodded. Go, he said. May the gods be with you. Nia walked through the bustling marketplace, her heart pounding. People whispered as she passed. Some bowed respectfully. Others turned away. She climbed onto a raised stone platform and raised her hands. People of Njani, she called. The crowd fell silent. Nia took a deep breath. There are whispers in the streets. Whispers that I am unworthy, that I will bring ruin to this kingdom. Murmurs spread through the crowd. She lifted her voice. But I tell you now, those are lies. A foreigner named Kamari seeks to turn us against each other. He wants you to believe that I am your enemy. But tell me, when your children were sick, who healed them? A woman stepped forward hesitantly. You did. When your crops failed, who rode to the villages to help? You did, an elderly man muttered. Nia placed a hand over her heart. I have always served this kingdom. And I swear to you, I will not stop now. But I cannot fight alone. I need you, my people, to stand with me. The crowd shifted. Then, a young boy stepped forward. I believe you, he said. A woman followed. And I. More voices rose. We stand with the princess. Nia's eyes stung with tears of relief. Maybe, just maybe, they still had a chance. As the city prepared for battle, a lone figure watched from the shadows. Kamari stood on a hill, his eyes cold. The girl is strong, he murmured. A soldier beside him bowed. Shall we attack at dawn? Kamari's lips curved into a smile. No, he said. We attack tonight. The city of Njani lay in restless silence. Torches flickered along the palace walls. The guards stood alert, gripping their spears, their eyes scanning the darkness beyond the gates. But deep in the shadows of the forest, danger was approaching. Kamari's warriors moved like ghosts, their feet silent on the damp earth. At their lead, Kamari himself rode on a black horse, his expression unreadable. His plan was simple: strike before dawn, before the city could fully prepare. A scout rode up beside him. The walls are lightly guarded. Kamari smirked. Perfect. He raised his hand, the signal to attack. A loud horn blast shattered the silence. The guards on the wall barely had time to react before arrows rained down from the darkness. We're under attack, one of them shouted. Chaos erupted. Flaming arrows lit up the night as Kamari's soldiers stormed the gates, their swords gleaming in the firelight. The city bells rang furiously, waking the people from their sleep. Inside the palace, Nia jerked awake, her heart pounding. A guard burst into her chambers. Princess, they've come. She leaped to her feet. Where is Juma? He is at the gates, leading the defense. Nia grabbed her dagger and ran. At the city gates, Juma fought like a lion. His sword clashed against enemy steel, his muscles burning, his breath coming fast. Kamari's forces are pushing through, a guard cried. Juma gritted his teeth. Hold the line. But the enemy was too strong. A group of soldiers broke through, storming toward the palace. Juma's heart seized with fear. Nia. He turned to run back, but before he could, a shadow stepped in his path. Kamari. The rebel leader smiled darkly, his blade dripping with blood. Going somewhere, Prince. Juma tightened his grip on his sword. It ends tonight, Kamari. Kamari chuckled. Yes. But for whom? He lunged. Juma barely dodged as Kamari's blade sliced through the air, missing his chest by inches. Juma countered with a swift strike, but Kamari was fast, too fast. He twisted away, landing a vicious kick to Juma's side. Juma stumbled back, gasping. "You're strong," Kamari admitted, circling him like a predator. "But you don't have what it takes to kill me." Juma wiped blood from his lip. "We'll see about that." The fight raged on, swords flashing under the burning sky. Nia raced through the palace halls, her heart hammering. The battle was getting closer. She could hear the screams, the clash of weapons, the roar of flames. She reached the main courtyard and froze. A group of enemy soldiers had broken through. And leading them was Kamari's second-in-command, a massive warrior with cruel eyes. He spotted Nia and sneered. "The little healer. You should have run while you had the chance." Nia lifted her chin. "I do not run from cowards." The warrior growled. "I'll enjoy this." He charged. Nia's hands tightened around her dagger, but before he could reach her, a blinding light burst from her pendant. The warrior stumbled back, eyes wide with shock. "What?" The pendant pulsed, and suddenly, Nia felt something inside her shift. Something ancient. Something powerful. Her mother's voice whispered in her mind, "Even broken things can still hold light." A wave of energy surged through her, and she raised her hands. A gust of wind blasted through the courtyard, knocking the soldiers off their feet. Nia gasped. She had never done anything like this before. What was happening to her? Meanwhile, at the gates, Juma and Kamari were still locked in battle. Both were bruised, bleeding, exhausted. But Kamari was smiling. "You don't even know, do you?" Kamari murmured. Juma frowned. "Know what?" Kamari chuckled. "Who I really am." Juma's grip tightened on his sword. "You're a traitor, a murderer." Kamari's eyes gleamed. "No, Prince. I am your brother." Juma's world tilted. "What?" Kamari grinned. "Ask your father. Ask him what he did to my mother." Juma staggered back, his mind spinning. Was it true? Could Kamari really be? Kamari took advantage of his hesitation. He lunged, sword flashing. And Juma barely blocked in time. With Nia's newfound power and Juma's unbreakable will, the battle continued. But the kingdom was on the brink. If Kamari's claim was true, if he really was a forgotten prince, then everything Juma knew about his family was a lie. And if Nia's powers continued to grow, what else was she capable of? As dawn approached, the war for Njani was far from over. The final battle had just begun. Juma staggered back, his breath ragged. Kamari's words echoed in his mind. "I am your brother." It couldn't be true. It shouldn't be true. But deep in his heart, Juma felt a sliver of doubt. "You're lying," he growled. Kamari smirked. "Am I?" "Then tell me, Prince, why does your father look at you with such guilt? Why does he never speak of the first woman he loved?" Juma's grip on his sword tightened. The truth was there, buried beneath years of silence. But now was not the time. Juma pushed away his doubts and charged. Their swords clashed, a storm of steel and fury. Nia stood in the palace courtyard, panting. The power from her pendant still hummed inside her. She looked at her hands. Had she really just summoned the wind? Before she could process it, the enemy recovered. The massive warrior she had knocked back rose to his feet, eyes burning with rage. "You think you're special," he spat. "You're just a little girl playing with things she doesn't understand." He charged again, but this time, Nia was ready. The pendant flared, and Nia felt something inside her shift again. She moved without thinking, her body flowing like water. the warrior swung his sword. But Nia dodged effortlessly, twisting away with inhuman speed. The warrior's eyes widened. "What are you?" Nia didn't answer. She lifted her hand, and this time, fire sparked in her palm. Inside the palace, the king watched the battle from his throne room. His face was grim. The truth was out. Kamari, the boy he had abandoned so long ago, had returned for vengeance. The door burst open, and Mama Sefu stepped inside. "My king," she said, breathless. "We must leave the palace." But the king barely heard her. His mind was trapped in the past. In the woman he had loved before Juma's mother. In the child he had forsaken. In the sins that had finally come to claim him. He closed his eyes. It was time to face the truth. The sky was painted with fire. The city of Njani burned as warriors clashed in the streets. Nia and Juma fought with everything they had, but Kamari's forces were relentless. And then, a loud horn blast echoed across the land. Nia's eyes widened. What was that? Juma turned toward the palace, and his heart stopped. At the city gates, a new army was approaching. But they weren't from Njani. They were Kamari's final reinforcements. Juma clenched his fists. This isn't over. The true battle for the kingdom had just begun. The earth trembled as Kamari's reinforcements approached. From the palace balcony, Juma watched in horror. Thousands of warriors, clad in black armor, marched through the city gates. Their weapons gleamed beneath the rising sun, their banners fluttering like the wings of vultures. Juma's hands tightened into fists. "We can't win against this," a soldier whispered behind him. Juma refused to believe that. "We still have a chance," he said firmly. "We hold the palace. If we fall back, regroup, and strike at their leader, we—" A horn blast cut through the air. Juma's blood ran cold. Kamari's army was charging. And the battle for Njani had begun again. Deep inside the palace, Nia stood frozen. The pendant around her neck glowed softly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Something inside her was changing. She could feel it, power curling through her veins, whispering in her mind. She had already wielded the wind. The fire. But what else was she capable of? "Nia." A voice snapped her back to reality. She turned. Mama Sefu stood at the doorway. "Come with me," the older woman ordered. "The palace is no longer safe." Nia's fists clenched. "I'm not running." Mama Sefu's eyes flashed with anger. "You think you can fight them alone? You're a healer, not a warrior." But Nia felt it now. She was more than that. And it was time to prove it. The king sat on his throne, his face pale and drawn. The sounds of battle raged outside, the clash of swords, the screams of the wounded, the roar of fire. And standing before him was Kamari. The rebel leader's face was unreadable. "You know why I'm here," Kamari said, his voice cold. The king nodded slowly. "I do." He rose to his feet. "Long ago, I made a terrible mistake. I took a woman I loved and cast her aside. I turned my back on a son who should have been mine." His gaze locked onto Kamari's. "And I regret it every day." Kamari's jaw tightened. "Too late for regrets, old man." He raised his sword. But before he could strike, a blinding light filled the room. Nia stood at the entrance, her pendant burning with golden light. The air shimmered around her, crackling with energy. Kamari staggered back, shielding his eyes. "What is this?" Nia's voice was calm, steady. "You wanted revenge, Kamari. But what if I can give you something better?" Kamari frowned. "What?" The pendant flared even brighter, and suddenly, visions exploded into Kamari's mind. He saw his mother's face, her tears, her sorrow. He saw the truth, how the king had been forced to let her go to protect her from the jealous nobles. He saw the pain his own revenge had caused, the innocent lives lost, the families broken. Kumari fell to his knees. And for the first time in his life, he hesitated. Outside, the battle raged on. Juma fought like a lion, his sword flashing as he defended the palace gates. But then, a horn blast echoed through the city. The enemy soldiers froze. Kumari stepped out of the palace, his face unreadable. And then, in front of everyone, he did something no one expected. He dropped his sword. A stunned silence fell over the battlefield. Juma's breath caught in his throat. Kumari. The rebel leader looked at him. And for the first time, there was no hatred in his eyes. The war was over. The fires were put out, the wounded tended to, and the dead mourned. In the throne room, Juma stood before his father. "You must tell the people the truth," Juma said quietly. The king nodded. "I will." Beside him, Nia held Juma's hand. She had saved the kingdom. But more than that, she had changed it. And soon, a new chapter in Johnny's history would begin. The celebration lasted for days. The city of Njani rejoiced as Prince Juma and Nia were finally joined in marriage. The people danced, sang songs of peace and unity. And beneath the stars, Juma and Nia promised each other forever. But as they held each other close, Nia's pendant glowed softly. And she knew. Their story wasn't over yet. Years passed. The kingdom thrived under Juma's rule. And one day, a little girl stood by the river, staring at the water. She was Nia's daughter. And she held something in her tiny hand. A small, broken pendant, still glowing with light. She smiled. Because she knew. Even broken things can still shine.